Good day, Sailor Steve, talking to you right now from Miami, Florida. I'm off the ship for a few hours, and I was invited by the Rotary Club of Miami to come and talk about my experience. What's it like to live at sea on a cruise ship? How do you make it happen? What all happens? What do you do every day? What do you do on sea days? I'm here to explain that. It's a lot of fun.
Well, greetings. And thank you, fellow members of the Rotary Club of Miami, for inviting me to speak today about something that I'm involved in at the current time. I remember about last spring, I think it was, when I decided to experiment with living at sea on a cruise ship. And so I set about to plan this adventure. And I remember all the questions that came up from people as I met over the several months since then. Oh my God, how can you afford it? How do you make it work? How do you plan that? And so I thought it might be fun today for me to be here, since the ship is here today, up the road in Fort Lauderdale, to explain a little bit of that. And to start, I want to make this point very importantly. Travel is not a reward for working, it's education for living. And as I said, I'm on the Holland America Zaandam. I have been since October 10. So I'm 3 months in. I've got 339 days to go in this cruise. Now, how do you say, oh my God, how long is that? 426 days. I put this together myself, you know? When my travel agent helped me and called the line, they said, well, we don't have a cruise for 426 days. I proposed an itinerary, I proposed a budget, and with the help of my travel agent, they said yes. And so here we go. Today is day 87, as I mentioned. It begins and ends in Fort Lauderdale. Port Everglades is the port. I wish it was right over here, across the road in Port Miami, but Holland America operates mostly out of Fort Lauderdale. The first cruise left Fort Lauderdale October 10. We circumnavigated Africa. This is the ship, the Zaandam. It's a beautiful ship. She's about 20 years old, but she's well maintained and she's a beautiful ship. Total occupancy is about 1,400 passengers, almost 600 crew. And we were full when we left, and we returned December 20, immediately left again, and just now returned from the holiday cruise that I've been on. It's been wonderful. It's been in the Caribbean, and in just a moment you'll see a slide that shows some of the stops. It's amazing. But let me go back to Africa. This is a young man who works in the fitness center on the ship. He's my personal trainer. I went on with two specific goals. One was to continue to lose weight. I was a little overweight before I joined this, maybe from too many cruises in the past where I didn't pay attention. And two, build some muscle. And I'm happy to say I feel wonderful after 3 months working with Suyash. You can see me standing in front of him at the aft of the ship one day, early in the cruise, doing strength, total body conditioning exercises and whatever. It's been great. We've had a lot of fun. But you know, when you're at sea, I've got a couple slides just to show you. The scenery is amazing. When you're on a sea day, and it takes about 6 or 7 sea days to cross the Atlantic from Fort Lauderdale to wherever your first stop is. In my case, it was Funchal in the Azores. This is the kind of scenery you see, whether it's morning or night. I mean, it's amazing, Mother Nature and what God has provided on this earth to those that are adventurous. As you can see from this map, we took off from Fort Lauderdale, we sailed east. Our first stop was Funchal. Then we landed in Agadir. Agadir is one of the 2 cities I visited in Morocco, places I hadn't been before, so I was really excited about this cruise. We sailed through the Mediterranean, several more stops. We came south through the Suez Canal, visiting Egypt, Jordan, some places I've been before, but it's an amazing journey. As you come down through Sharm el-Sheikh and Safaga in Egypt, we went to Zanzibar and Tanzania. What an amazing place. Zanzibar, you may know, is where Eddie Mercury was born, and I went to his home, his home when they lived in, actually, prior to dying or whatever, and met some people that knew him personally, whatever. It was quite an experience to do that. We went on to Madagascar. I'd been there before in 2013, but it's an amazing place where happy people live. I want to tell you, if you think about the happiest people on the earth, some of them live in Madagascar. Why? They have so little, really, in terms of material things, but they're very happy. They live in Mother Nature. The kids, it's just an amazing experience. We rounded Cape Town, spent a couple days there. I love that city. Think of San Francisco with a mountain behind it, and you can envision in your mind what Cape Town looks like. It's outstanding. Coming up the west coast of Africa, I went further north than I'd ever been, including Abidjan, to Banjul, to Senegal, Ghana, Ivory Coast. It was amazing seeing that part of Africa, which many people don't really have an opportunity to see often. There's a lot of poverty in Africa, but overall, you come back with a feeling that there's so much potential. And given that this is the birthplace of humanity, mankind, really, it's pretty amazing to see it after all these years and see that the people there are striving to make their governments work and to build prosperity.
You had like a day in each of these places, or part of a day, or how does it?
Yes, I did. I had at least a day in each of these places. In Cape Town, I had a couple days, for sure. We did overnights. We actually did overnights in, I think, South Africa, because we were able to visit along the Nile River, various sites. So there were a few places where there were multiple overnights. Well, we've come back now, as you see, stopping in San Juan prior to Fort Lauderdale. That was last week. And now we took off for the holiday cruise. This is where I just returned from, as I said. Look at the list of islands that we visited in the Caribbean. It was amazing. A different island every day, but beautiful islands. I particularly like Martinique and St. Martin. Those were two of the stops. There's some amazing trips, folks, in the Caribbean, if you've not done it. And again, the scenery is just amazing from the ship, to see the sky, and see whether at night or in the morning. This, I think, was a morning shot. But it's just unbelievable. Where I'm at now, we're about to leave to take a Trans-Panama Canal cruise, round trip to San Diego. And when we return, I actually will be changing ships at that point. And the new ship, well, this is a picture of me on New Year's Eve. Well, kind of relaxed. I was very relaxed. I partied a little too much that night, thereby I still kind of got a raspy throat that you might hear, but it was an amazing New Year's Eve celebration on board the ship. I got permission from the captain and the general manager of the hotel on the right. He's in charge of most of the staff. The captain on the left has about 35 employees, but they're all very important. They make the ship operate. I got their permission to come to speak today. They said, you know, we leave at 3, and I said, I know. I'll be back at 2:30. And they said, you better be. I'm going to honor that. But I was proud to be recognized before the Mariner Society. I've got a lot of days at sea on Holland America, and I actually got a gold medal on a prior cruise, but it was pretty neat. Well, the new ship that I'm changing to is the new Statendam. This is a brand new ship that launched in 2019. She's amazing. 2,600 passengers, twice as many. But you might guess there's twice as many restaurant options, there's twice as many entertainment options or whatever. It's a lot of fun. And I'm really impressed with Holland because what they've done is they've spread it out such a way that there's never a line. You never feel like you're in lines or having to wait or whatever. Unlike some of the other cruise lines that have these mega ships that, you know, you feel like you're at the mall. Nothing like that. This is very close to the experience on the smaller ship, and I'm delighted to be traveling on her for 10 months starting February 4th. So the same day I come in on the Zaandam from San Diego, I switch to her and we take off. We'll do 8 weekly 7-day cruises in the Caribbean, and I'll come back to that in just a moment. We do a transatlantic back to Europe. And I didn't have a map that shows the itinerary, but if those of you that know your geography, you'll appreciate this. We come back through the Gibraltar connection into the Mediterranean. We do the Riviera, so we go along to Barcelona, up to France, Portofino, down to Italy, whatever, and we circle back through the Gibraltar. We come out, we come along the coast up to France, and then look at the United Kingdom, England, Ireland, and Scotland. One of the reasons I chose this itinerary is I've never been to Scotland. I've been to 160 countries, believe it or not, in my lifetime. Never been to Scotland. We circle that. We then go into the Baltic, see the Baltic Sea up there. We do 2 tours of the Baltic Sea because, again, one of the nice things about being on a long cruise like this, if I don't like the passengers, they're going to get off in a couple of weeks and I get another 2,000 to get on. So it's a lot of fun. You meet a lot of people. We come out of the Baltic, we travel up to the North Pole, around Iceland, back down into the Mediterranean. And then, surprise, surprise, the line decided to put the ship in for some maintenance after its 3-year inaugural, so it dry docked for 3 weeks. So my choice, I told my travel agent, is to spend 3 weeks in Naples. Not Naples, Florida, Naples, Italy. So I've arranged for a 3-bedroom condo, hint, hint, for anybody that could get a flight over to Naples, Italy, free place to stay. We'll have some fun because we can take little day tours in Naples, Italy. And then I'm sailing back to Fort Lauderdale when she comes out of dry dock. So it's quite an adventure. How do I make this all happen? All right, that's a serious question. I decided to give you a real answer. This is what I did first of all. One of the concerns you have to think about is, well, I take a couple medications. How do you get those renewed with insurance and everything else, that type of thing? I take a lot of vitamins. So I got a year's supply already purchased ahead. And I was able to, through my insurance company, get vacation overrides for 2022 and 2023. And that's how I did it. I stockpiled a half a year's supply of the 2 meds that are prescription. Everything else was easy to buy. So that's how I took care of that. I did my dental cleaning today. Well, I've gotten the names of some dentists that can do it. They're open on Saturday in Fort Lauderdale, so I'll get some continued maintenance of my teeth as well. The money, that's the most important part. All right, this is an example. You know, I hopefully took out all the numbers. I mean the account numbers. But anyway, this is an example of basically what I did. I gave my travel agent in the lower right a budget of $7,500 a month. This is money I spend anyway, living in Miami. I spend that much myself. Now, maybe I could live cheaper if I cooked for myself. I don't think so. Think of all the time and hassle that would be. So I eat out most of my meals. I spend about $40, $50 a day for meals, is my calculation. Using that and using the bills that I pay and everything else, I came up with a budget easily showing by, in the middle, I think it's in the middle, does it say tenant rent? Where's that at? Okay, on the right. That's the big help. All right, I wouldn't be able to do this, see, because I have to pay a single supplement on the cruise. I pay for 2 people, even though it's just me to have a double cabin. But the rent has made the difference. That paid for the single supplement and enabled me to take just money I spend anyway, prepay it through the cruise line, and be able to enjoy a cruise. It's giving me everything that I need. The approximate total is $105,000 for 14 months, $7,500. Not bad. So you may think it's impossible, but once you sit down and you put pen and pencil to paper, you realize, I can do that. Given the alternatives at my age, I'll be 75 in a couple of weeks. Traveling alone, you know, I've thought about that a lot because prior to this cruise, and a couple of short ones last spring, I was blessed to be with a life partner and actually a married partner for the last 12 years. And that's really when we began cruising in 2004. So doing it alone is a little bit different, and I was a little bit nervous about it and whatever, but then I remembered, wait a minute, I make all the decisions, there's no disagreement, of course, why not? But then I thought, well, and I've experienced this, when I misplace things, there's nobody there to help me find them either. So there is a positive, everything has a positive and a negative, a yin and a yang, but anyway. And I'd written down, don't look back because you're not going that way. I mean, the bottom line is at my age, I'll be 75. I realized like the hourglass, the sand's flowing through there. Why would I put this off? Do it while you're healthy. Because you'll see people on long cruises that are in scooters or with walkers and whatever, and God bless us all. None of us is guaranteed good health forever. And the majority of us are going to have an experience, a period of life when we can't get around that easily. And so I thought, let me start now. The good news is that on cruise ships, they're really prepared for people as they age, and they're prepared for us. And so this is a long-term prospect for me, but I'm going to take breaks from time to time. I know that. Nelson Mandela said, courage is not the absence of fear, it's inspiring others to move beyond it. And so I've also come with a suggestion. Sail with Steve on a 7-day Caribbean cruise for only $4.99. There's a flash sale this week going on that my travel agent told me about. And you may say, $4.99, I've heard cruise fares even cheaper than that. A couple things to consider. One, we're talking about to Aruba and Curacao with a stop in Half Moon Cay. Southern Caribbean, number one. Number two, that's all inclusive, all right? That's better than airfares. You fly to Aruba, just to Aruba round trip. It's more than that. On American Airlines, it's $600 and some or whatever round trip. I checked their fares. You know, the bottom line is you never really travel alone. The world is full of friends just waiting to get to know you. And that's been my experience. I have met so many people in the 3 months that I've been on board the ship so far. And it was 2 cruises. One was 71 days and one was just the 16 days we just completed. But my phone is full of new contacts. It's full of contacts from before too that I've met that happened to be on the ship as well. It was great to see them. So I encourage you to think about sailing as an option, long term, not just the 3, 4, 5 day cruises, because you gain a lot of weight, you come back and oh my God, you know, the money and whatever. The bottom line, if you plan it out and you think it out ahead of time, I don't eat everything on the ship. It's there all the time. So just like I do at home, I pick dessert once in a while. You know, sometimes it's really, you know, more than I should. Exercise. I walk the promenade every day. I work out in the gym or whatever. And so I wanted to come back and show you visibly. I look pretty fit. I feel very good. And I've had a great time. So, of course, I miss Miami. I miss seeing you all on Thursdays, regular meetings. But I tried several times on Zoom. But from Africa, whatever, the satellite overseas or whatever, it was kind of difficult. When you're at sea, you're using a satellite. All right, because there's no cell towers out in the ocean. So you're using a satellite, so it has to go up and back down from the satellite and whatever, depending on the weather and whatever, depending on the position of the satellite, where you are in the world, it can be better some days than others. When you're at land or you're in port, then generally there are cell towers just about around the world anymore. I mean, it's amazing what's gone on even in Africa. China has made huge investments in Africa. I was so impressed, concerned at the same time about the politics or whatever, but the changes going on in Africa, the new port facilities that China is investing in. We've always done what we did. We exploited, we took what resources we could, like the rest of Europe did, the West did. We're perhaps not as smart as some of the people in China who lead that country in making investments for the future. All right, well listen, thank you again for giving me the opportunity to present. I've enjoyed this.
Just finished my presentation. You know, I got so many questions. I hope I answered all of them. But you know, it's amazing. Living at sea is an experience that everyone should consider taking. I'm retired, and that's how I'm able to do it. I don't have to work any longer. And it's not as costly as you think. So it's a lot of fun to present to the club exactly how I made it happen. But I'm about to take off for Fort Lauderdale to reboard the Zaandam. We're departing at 3 p.m. this afternoon. Thanks very much for tuning in. Sailor Steve on YouTube, weekly videos. Subscribe. Thank you.